There are a lot of canoes in your river, Margaret.
I think it's in Japan somewhere. Oh. Looks good though, eh?
It does.
So I'm just making a call to Becca.
Ewan, I've been making use of the rocking chair.
Good job.
His evening routine is to sit here and just like rock him to sleep. It's quite
You won't
effective.
mind, I'll try to just focus on one part of the photo, otherwise I just see your head doing this.
Yeah.
I start going, you're feeling sleepy.
Yeah. Oh dear. Good for being very, very well behaved.
He's a very well behaved little baby.
Hey Sarah.
Yeah.
You know, on my Facebook, I put an image up of the slide going into Lake Rotorua.
Yeah.
I had all these comments from different scientists, and some of my mates at Doc that I used to work with, old fellas. They were telling me the history of the whole situation in the past,
Yeah.
and how it wasn't all as clean as the people think it is, or think it was. But they're sharing all these different strategies around, you know, connecting to the river and flushing it out, and all these other sort of backgrounds. That's quite interesting. It's quite topical at the moment, eh?
Yeah, it is. It would be really cool to hear all these different solutions, because it sounds like there's a large variety of opinions and solutions.
Yeah.
I was horrified to hear, Sarah, some of the information you found that at some stage somebody threw tons of arsenic in it as part of some strategy, and I just couldn't fathom how that could happen.
11,000 litres of herbicide of with arsenic in it, yeah. So, but that it's not too bad, like in terms of if it's kind of fairly well settled in the sediment. So it's not too
Okay,
bad.
so just we're live streaming, and it looks like we're all back after our longer lunch. Thank you, everyone. So let's resume our meeting. And so we're okay with the quorum, Becca?
Yes, we have quorum.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. So what I'd like to start with is just receiving the EnviroSchools report. I neglected to do that before we went to the break. So I'll move that report's accepted or received.
I'll second.
Thanks, Councillor Wilson. All those in favour, please raise your hand. It's like it's unanimous. All those against, please raise your hand. It looks like that's unanimous. Thank you. What we'll do now is, because Councillors McPherson and Mayor Southgate would like to be present for the Climate Action Report, we'll defer that one until after we've received the next reports for information only. So I'll take the General Manager's report now. That can be delivered separately, but then once we're finished with that, I'll take the three other reports: waste management, sustainability and smart water. I'll take all those reports together. So over to you, Sean.
Thank you, Margaret. So with the General Manager's report, it's actually just a update on the nature and the city strategy. And so I think Amanda Barry is, Amanda or Maria Barry is on the call to answer any questions on that. But I'll just take it as read. So I'm just looking to see if Amanda is actually there.
Okay.
Oh, Maria's there.
Okay, do we have any questions on the General Manager's report? Very good.
Just one, Chair Margaret.
Yes.
Sorry, I've got the blue hand. Maria, could you please remind me, were we going to provide, I guess, a summary of the kind of feedback we got through the engagement? I can't remember what the plan was there.
Yes, absolutely. And Amanda has taken that feedback and is shaping up a kind of one-pager similar to the play strategy, and she'll bring that forward to elected members for feedback at the same time.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Are there any other questions? Jolly good. That being the case, then I'll move that the General Manager's report is received. And second, thank you, Councillor Wilson. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Looks like what are those against? Is that unanimous, Becca? Was that a, sorry, I didn't take time to see them all. Was that unanimous?
Yeah, so I can confirm that that was carried unanimously. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Cheers, thank you. The next item, as I said, I'll take the 3 information-only reports all together, and if there are any questions or points of discussion, we can take that by exception rather than go through each report one by one. So that'll be the Waste Management and Minimisation Action Plan report, the Sustainability and Energy Efficiency and Smart Water Program update. Any questions?
I'm happy to second those, Margaret.
Thank you. I'll move Councillor Wilson to second. Any questions? Kesh, you have one?
Yeah, just one. Thank you. With the waste minimisation report, I know one of the activities is to work with businesses to reduce waste and increase recycling. Has there been any advances or any progress made with negotiating better rates or incentivizing businesses to recycle?
Kia ora, it's Trent speaking. Look, nothing as definite as that. I think most of the interactions with businesses has more been opportunistic at the moment. Obviously, we've got quite a big focus with the new service at the moment, so that's where a lot of the actions are kind of waiting to sort of start moving forward. But there are a lot of businesses making approaches and we're talking to them, but nothing around a reduction of their costs or anything like that. I think if we were to go down that path, it's probably talking to them about the benefits of what they would achieve through reducing their waste streams, and just trying to encourage them to talk to different suppliers around what they can and can't do around that.
Awesome. I think just a quick comment, I think I brought it up ages ago, that business waste, it's actually cheaper to be sending it to landfill than it is to recycle at the moment. So if there was any sort of deal to be struck on behalf of Hamilton businesses, I think it would be quite welcomed.
Yep. And I think with the announcements from central government around the levies, that situation is going to change as well, with the landfill being cheaper than recycling. So that's, you know, one of the drivers is don't make it too easy to throw it in the tip.
Exactly. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Sorry, I'll unmute myself. Manga Norm, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, hey, Sean, just give an update on the Te Ngāwha Whakatupu Ake Māori perspective of strategy.
Sorry, Norm, can you say that again, please?
So it's just that Te Ngāwha Whakatupu Ake, the Māori perspective on the strategy. How's that tracking?
On which strategy are you referring to?
So I'm just looking at page 41. That's your report to progress nature in the city.
Yep. So, okay. I will get Maria if she's still on the line. We had sort of dispensed with that report, but the Maria can possibly answer it if we're at the discretion of the chair.
Yeah, just for you, Margaret.
Yes, yeah, Norm, we've actually dealt with that item, but if it's just one question, we can come back to that. And Becca, we can do that.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay.
Yep. I suppose just to give some rationale, it's just again, where's the Māori contribution within those respective strategies? There's probably a status on where that's at, really, yeah. And if there's support needed, because I know that there's a lot of challenges around trying to get culture input into these different strategies, and just seeking if there's any help required where I can lean in and help, Sean.
Sure. I mean, just as a general comment, we have sort of regular meetings with that group on a variety of topics, so they are. We do take sort of our key strategic documents to them. I'm not sure about the specifics around the nature in the city, but I can see Maria waving her hand, so I think she can probably answer that one.
Yeah. So good afternoon, Chair Margaret and Councillors Manga and Norm. At the time where we first raised it, there was a preference from the group that we spoke to the young people, and so we were hoping to arrange that workshop with youth. That had a bit of a stumbling block with COVID restrictions and the kaumātua not being able to come out during level 2. So yeah, I think Amanda is actually just waiting to see what happens with the next level 2 arrangements and seeing how we can link back and do that work.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Good. Okay, succinct answer. Thank you. Just moving along. Do I have any other councillors that have any questions? Okay, look, I do have one, and look, excuse me, I'm just flipping between Diligent and the screen, and it's about the New Zealand Green Building Council, page 59 on Diligent, point 24. So it's about the cost to Green Star accreditation, approximately 60,000 for applicants. And there's often additional costs for external consultant specialist support as well per application. Is this cost a barrier for applicants? 60,000 does seem quite a hefty sum. And if we're trying to encourage Green Star accreditation and for our building, for our future buildings, two questions. Is cost a barrier? What sort of feedback have we heard from applicants? And secondly, how many applications have we had, let's say, in the last 12 months? And I understand COVID's got in the way.
So, good afternoon, Chair Margaret and councillors. Maybe if I could start and answer that question, and then whoever else is on the call could jump in if they want to add something. So this is the cost to the Green Star Association, not to us.
Right.
So, and this is the cost for a Green Star community. So it's that assessment of a whole community, which is quite a big undertaking, which is why it's in the order of 60,000, and it depends on your community size, etc., how much that cost actually is. We are working through that process at the moment for the Peacock community, and so we have commissioned a consultant who's helping us with that journey, looking to get Green Star accreditation for Peacock community.
Great, thank you. I knew we were going for a Green Star accreditation for Peacock, but so when you say a community, is that, I mean, how long's a piece of string? So presumably there's some sort of description or criteria around what a community is. So when it says applicants, does that apply to mum and dad sort of builders or developers as well?
So the applicant for a community assessment is usually the person who's leading the development. In the case for Peacock, it is Hamilton City Council. My understanding, and someone might be able to help me, is the other communities in New Zealand that have applied have been in Auckland, and they've been smaller areas, and I'm not sure if they were the developers who applied or the council. Does anyone know that? I'm just checking. We can find out and come back.
Look, it's
We can answer that. So council, it's from council.
No, so sorry, I meant for the Henderson ones in Auckland. Did you know if that was the developer or the community, developer or the council who led those Auckland Greens? Because that's the only other Green Star
So
community program in New Zealand.
Kirsty Quickfall's advising it was the council. So, but we will clarify that.
Right.
okay. And just to be clear for me, it's the cost to Green Star. It's not the cost to council or the developer. Is that correct?
That's correct. So it's a payment to the Green Star Association to be accredited through their process.
Okay. So that is a cost to council. It
Yes.
is a cost. Yes. Okay. Great. Cool. Thank you. Thanks for that clarification. Do I have any other questions? None. Okay then. Well, given that, I'll move that those 3 reports are received. And do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Wilson. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Those against, please raise your hand. So that's all unanimous. Thank you very much. It's carried. So now we move on to the Climate Action Plan. And I see Councillor Dave is back in the room. Is Councillor Southgate here? Sorry, Mayor Southgate here as well? Not yet. Okay, very good. Over to staff, please, to present Climate Action Plan report.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, thank you, Chair Margaret. That's about the second time I've done that. My apologies. Thank you, Chair Margaret. I'll talk to this, and also Charlotte, who is joining us, will also talk to this. For councillors who have not met Charlotte, she is our new sustainability advisor that was appointed through the funding that you approved for the annual plan process. So she's joined our team, and at the moment her focus is on climate action plan, along with other things that we're developing. So what we have presented here in this council report is our draft climate action plan for 2021. So this action plan has a focus on what we're trying to achieve for the next year, and also indicates some of our longer term aspirations in terms of climate emission reductions. We'd like to note that those longer term climate emission reductions have a number of projects out into the future, and of course they will be going through our long-term plan process, and depending on the funding of those projects, whether they will stay in our action plan for the future or they might need to be modified. One of the key things we've learned on this journey of the last year is that we really want to have a climate action plan for the long term that takes us right out to 2050. And that's a lot. So on our journey this year, we have become aware of what we don't know, and we are working hard at the moment to increase our knowledge in certain areas so that we can be well informed for the future. With Charlotte coming on board, we now have the capability to work on that longer term plan. And I'm going to get Charlotte to talk about what we mean by that longer term plan now. So Charlotte, would you like to quickly outline that? And then we're happy to take questions.
So when we were looking at where we'd got to, my thoughts around it were there are 3 things we really need to be focusing on: managing risks and adapting to the physical impacts of climate change, emissions reduction and actions, and then managing the risks and also realizing the benefits of the transition to a low carbon future. And to really do those things properly, we need to, as Julie was just saying, build that knowledge. So over the next 3 months, what I'm proposing is we go around and really understand what those scenarios look like. What does climate change really mean for Hamilton out to maybe 2030, 2050, and even if, looking out beyond that, because we have to be considering for our infrastructure these much longer term impacts. So I propose over the next 3 months, we do that work as well as establishing our climate accord, building our internal program structure and governance, because governance for climate change is really critical. And it's a key area that the Ministry for Environment is looking at the moment. And then I propose that we establish these working groups. So when I ran the Victorian Government Climate Change Framework process, we had working groups that were for each domain area, because the knowledge doesn't always sit just within one government area or one council. It's about bringing along key stakeholders, organisations who operate in these areas, our community, in making decisions with us and knowing what the future looks like for them, what the climate risks are for them as well. So I propose that work takes actually a good 6 months to do. So from January to June, we'd really focus on building our strategies for all of the different domains we need to focus on, like transport, land use planning, built environment, our natural environment. What does climate change mean for all of those areas? And then by July, we'll have a long-term plan, hopefully all approved, and we'll have a good idea around what the next 3 years at least look like, and longer out with the infrastructure strategy as well. And we then look at our climate change strategy, our long-term plan, and bring a final 2050 climate change action plan to the committee in a year's time. So yes, we're happy to take questions obviously on what we presented today, and also on that longer term piece, and your thoughts around what we're proposing.
Very good, thank you, Charlotte. I have a question from Councillor Dave.
Thanks, Margaret. And welcome, Charlotte. Welcome back. You've changed from the waste to the climate action plan, which is all good. And I'm sure you'll do an excellent job like you did with the other one. But I'm focusing a little bit when I look through this on transport, and I think we're really light on everything in our statements up front on everything other than cycling, which has got some nice detail, though it should be seen that it's not exclusive. There's more cycling things, I think, than just that list we've got on page 21 there. But that's the sort of thing I'd be looking for in probably in walking. But more particularly, I'm looking at public transport. There's a whole heap of things there that, and you know, I'm referencing back, not back, forwards to the program on the following page, which shows our transport is the biggest generator of the city's carbon footprint. I think I understand the difference between that and the city council's carbon emissions, but I think we have a responsibility to do something about the city-wide carbon footprint. So I would be looking to see a whole lot more descriptors of what needs to happen in a high-level way with public transport. I'd also be looking to see how rail fits into that whole scheme. And how we tie in probably with the Metro Spatial Plan, which we've just been doing some work on the last couple of hours on future proof. And I think, you know, it's such a big problem area. I think it needs a big amount of input into the areas we should cover. And look, I realise the regional council covers a lot of PT stuff, but we have a joint committee with them which can dive into the details quite well. We need to be doing, I think the history has shown that Hamilton City Council in the area of bus transport has to push and drive that to get things through the regional council. So I'm just looking for also just under the land use planning, I think the Hamilton-Torquay corridor should be mentioned, not just the Metro Spatial Plan. That's the other big element.
Questions, Dave? Questions, Councillor Dave?
Oh, well, I'm going to ask what she thinks about what I've just said. Sorry, Margaret. But also, I did actually have a final small question as well as for comments on that, was do you think, congestion should be in there as well, because there's been some studies I've seen, for instance, in Auckland, which shows the cost to the community and to the business community and the general community in terms of both environmental cost and financial cost of congestion, and whether you improve, if you improve that, how does it improve your community outcomes?
Maybe if I start and Charlotte, you can jump in. Thank you, Councillor Dave. Yes, all the things you've mentioned are things that we really want to dive into and get better understanding for. And I suppose when we look at the city's carbon footprint, you're right, 62% is to do with transport. And at the moment, that's about the limit of the information we have around that. So one of our next steps that Charlotte's organising is actually to get more detail around that. Is that coming from vehicles that are travelling around our city, or is that coming from, so the data for this comes from petrol sales. So is it coming from fleet vehicles that are filling up in Hamilton City but are driving all over the Waikato? So there's a whole nother layer of detail that we really need to get to. So all the things you said, I think Charlotte was noting down all those things, and we're going, yes, yes, yes. They really are all the things that we want to have in our 2050 plan. What I wanted to check was, are you okay with what we've got at the moment as a 1-year plan to allow us to keep going on that journey?
Well, what I see as missing is the, and I'd ask you to include it really, is the regional passenger transport plans that have come out of the Connections Committee.
Right.
It's sort of the equivalent, if you like, of the bike plan in that area. And maybe the land use planning is a big driver of transport costs, I believe. There's been quite a lot of work. It almost should hook in not just to the Metro Spatial Plan, but to the wider corridor thing. Hamilton to Auckland corridor, whether you should be much more of a statement in there in those couple of areas.
Thank you. Then I'd like to suggest maybe a way forward is that we work with Councillor Dave to get those comments in those places. So maybe if the committee approves this subject to some amendments, approved, working with councillors and then approved by the chair post the committee meeting.
Yeah, look, I'm fine with that. Process-wise, look to Becca for some guidance there, but I think that's the benefit having cross-committee input, and obviously Dave with his experience and what's happening in growth and infrastructure, it's a really obvious place to start.
Yep.
So what would that look like, Becca, recording that?
Sorry, I have to admit I was just reviewing some council reports in the background, so I missed the major content of what that was about. Sorry. So was that just around the process going forward?
I think it's probably approving the, if everything else is fine, it's sort of approving the strategy subject to additional changes discussed at the meeting, and then sort of delegating authority to the chief executive to sort of make those changes perhaps, and then I can take that on behalf of the chief executive, and then work with Eva Lisa and Councillor Dave to just incorporate some of those transport actions that are actually planned and underway into the document.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't mind being a part of that conversation as well.
Sure.
Yeah. So I don't know who's got the pen, but if somebody can put that together, potentially where there has to be a minute note or an amendment, so I'll leave that up to you, Becca or Sean.
I think we'll just note, Councillor Margaret, that's okay. What the intention of that is. Yep.
Okay, cool. Dave, how does that sit with you?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I wasn't looking for an answer today, just to make sure that we could expand that area a bit, because I really think the work of the Environment Committee, you and I have talked about this, should almost impose itself on other areas of council work.
Yep. Okay, very good. Cool, thank you. I do have a question potentially for Sean or maybe Charlotte, but it's just around, and I'm so thankful, Charlotte, that you've come on board, given your experience and your recent experience in delivery of the Victorian State Climate Action Plan. But my question is around, well, we've got LTP coming up. We have a fledgling climate action plan. How are we going to influence what we need for where we're at with a climate action plan, or potentially where we would like to be, let's say in 12 months' time or 9 months' time? How are we going to have influence or have input into the long-term plan without having a fully worked up final copy of our climate action plan, and how we're going to meet those needs that we know are going to be coming up?
It's a good question, Chair Margaret. I think the part of it is that the emissions goals that are in this plan do set a sort of a long-term trajectory for council activities, and so it's if the in the asset management plans and the activity management plans that are being developed as part of the long-term plan, those longer-term goals are being considered, and the activities and asset management plans are actively responding to that challenge. I think the graphic on page 26 sort of shows sort of a emissions reduction roadmap from now until 2030, and I think that so although the longer term plan might not be adopted until next year, adopting the action plan now, which incorporates sort of these longer term goals, they help set direction for what needs to happen from an LTP project and funding point of view. I'm not sure if Julie or Charlotte wants to add anything to that.
I think you said it well, Sean.
So then, at the risk of undoing that, I do just want to. I think it's worth noting for the committee that some of those things in that that longer term diagram, so some of those actions, they're not set in stone. They are decisions that the council will have to make, and there are some things in there which will require quite a bit of funding, particularly around changing boilers and energy sources at various sort of council facilities. Those things come with quite a lot of challenges, including quite big financial challenges and logistical challenges. So they're not sort of simple calls to make.
Okay, thanks, Sean. And look, I like simple things, and that diagram's a really good one. I can understand that. It's pretty easy to get to take hold of. So I'm feeling better about how we're actually going to address what we know we need to address, and with some goals and actions identified now, you're telling me that it's a good starting place. We know that the bar isn't going to shift too far away from what we know already, and that our asset management plans, and I can't remember what you call the other one, but they will be able to capture the environmental context of what it is that we need to be addressing in the LTP as well. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct.
Great, thank you. Councillor Sarah?
Thank you. My question is just, I guess, looking at where we are right now, it's been about a year since the previous council resolved to create an urgent climate action plan. And I guess it seems like it was inadequately resourced at the time. We can see that now. And I just have felt concerned that maybe we weren't informed about that early enough in terms of that lack of resourcing, so that we could at least know that we weren't going to make timeframes, and that, you know, at the end of the year, we wouldn't have what I guess I'd been expecting anyway in terms of a climate action plan, a more comprehensive one. Maybe a comment on that would be good.
And so was that a question in there? Sorry, Sarah?
Yeah, I guess it's just what is the question? Really a comment back on the lack of resourcing, and I guess the fact that we weren't maybe notified of that much earlier on in the process.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I would say is that we have tried to get the balance right between that action orientation versus the longer term strategic piece. I think what we have presented to the committee today is trying to get that balance. I think we have struggled between trying to demonstrate that we are taking urgent action, but at the same time there is a sort of a much more strategic long-term sort of forward-looking piece, and I think we were kind of caught in the middle of trying to deliver something which met both requirements, and I think we have now got it right, where we're saying, actually, here's the action plan, here are the things that we are getting on and doing, this is what we're delivering right now and this year, with also that further piece of work, which is the longer term action plan. You're right, we have been relatively under-resourced in this space. However, the council adopted the annual plan about a month ago, and we have been pretty quick to turn that funding allocation around and get Charlotte on board. So I certainly don't think we've been dragging the chain in terms of taking the money and getting the resource to push this forward. So yeah, that's probably all I can say on it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Sean. Dave, Councillor Dave. Did you have another question? Sorry. Dave, your hand's still up here. Looks like your screen's frozen. I'll come back to you. Mayor Paula.
Thank you. I'm going to have to go in a minute, but I just wanted to add, I just needed to add a little.
Emissions?
Sorry. Sorry, Dave, your screen froze, and in the meantime, I've just invited Paula to speak.
Sorry, Dave, you only came in with the last 3 words there. I'll just go be quick because I have to jump off and wrestle that most beautiful city thing off Whanganui. But what I was going to say is just it lends some support to what both Sarah and Sean are saying, that yes, we came from a place of no focus to some focus for the annual plan, and the annual plan was of course delayed, so the whole thing feels delayed. Glad to have Charlotte on board. Long time since we've seen each other. I think it's really cool. So my view is, can we get enough shaped up for the LTP? In our opinion, with what we've got, is that are we at least going to get a structure of a plan that we can build on in the LTP years?
Thanks, Mayor Paula. We've just, I don't know if you were there for a question that I put to Sean. It was a very similar ilk.
No, sorry, apologies.
Yeah, given where we're at with our current working up of our climate action plan, and knowing that we've got a long-term plan coming up, are we going to be able to meet the needs of what we are going to see is now, but also in the future? And Sean has said, yes, well, we think we've got enough information to deal and have some targets, but also through the asset management plans, he says that we can meet those environmental contexts and needs, and bring those to the, include those in the LTP.
Okay, cool.
Well, thank you. Dave.
See you later, everyone.
Okay, thanks, Paula.
yeah, look, what I was trying to say before it froze was I'm wondering whether there's enough clarification of the difference between in the plan between Hamilton City Council carbon emissions and the city's carbon footprint, and our responsibility for the two different ones, because I noticed that in some places you can read it either way, because it just says city with a big C. So I'm just, you know, I've no problems with the detail in there. I just think that we should, you know, I like it to hear what you have to say there, Julie, whether there's a way we can explain that there's two sides of the same coin there or something.
Yeah, definitely we can have a look and see if we can make it clearer. There are two things we're looking at here. One is our response as an organisation. Like most other organisations, we have to have a climate, particularly an emissions plan for our organisation. But then as a city council, we have that wider responsibility for our wider city. So definitely we can have a look and see if we can make that a bit clearer.
Thanks. Yep. Thanks, Margaret.
Great, thank you. Thanks. Councillor Sarah, do you have another question? Or was that your hand not down from last time?
No, old hand, thanks.
Okay. Old hand. Very good. Well, look, if there aren't any more questions, I'll put the staff recommendations to the floor.
Yep, I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Do we have any discussion? If we go to debate, any discussion and debate? It's a no. Okay, thank you.
I did, but now I have a grizzling baby in the background. So I might just leave it.
Sorry, Chair Margaret, can I just double check? Did we change the motion at all from the staff recommendation as a result of Councillor Dave's comments? No, we didn't. Okay, sorry. So we've just taken that as an action, have we?
Yes.
Okay, Becca's nodding. Yep.
Yep. Cool. Thank you. So I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Dave's screen. Could you? Oh, you're right. Yep. Thank you. Thanks. Cheers. Those against, please raise your hand. Very good. That's passed. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, that brings us to the end. Correct me if I'm wrong, Becca, but to the end of the this portion of the Environment Committee meeting, and I'll move that we go to public excluded, seconded by Councillor Wilson. All those in favour, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. Sarah and Dave, thank you. All those against, motion carried.